Okay, great. Good. Yay. All right. Okay. So Paula is like a rock star with UDL. So hopefully, Paula, this is going to give you what you need. Always know that it would never offend me if this didn't meet your needs and you thought, I really wanted to go see something else. You won't hurt my feelings, just so we're clear. That's what the beauty of having a conference on Zoom. I can go where I need. Oh, okay, Paula, cool. Woohoo! 1 out of 5. So, okay. You're adorable. I love it. Okay. Someday I want to meet all of you guys in person because I'm ready for back to in-person training. Here's the slide deck one more time. My name is Kim Vogie, for those of you who don't know me. Some of you look familiar to me. Our paths have hopefully crossed before. And this is all my information on how you can reach me. I'm going to be starting my 28th year teaching this year. And I've been in the same district for 28 years. This past year, I started a virtual school in our district for K-6. And I went from 0 students at this time last year to 450 students by the time the year started. So we grew from me as one teacher to 13 teachers. So it was an extremely interesting year. They always say there's nothing quite like your first year of teaching, which is true. But I'm pretty sure that last year topped all of those feelings back in 1994. So anyway, I taught 6th grade this past year. I had 66 students at one point and one of me, and we worked that all out and got a co-teacher, but it was a really interesting year and I really got to flex my UDL muscles, I think. So before we get started in here, I just want to put some context to this for you. Let's just say that you own a catering company and you're getting ready to create a fabulous dinner for a big, huge party, and you want it to be a success. And so how would you go about planning that menu and thinking about what would meet the needs of all of my people attending this? And then there's the caveat here. We've got someone who's lactose intolerant, nut allergies, gluten-free diet necessities, vegetarians, and just being mindful of being on a diet in general. So how would you meet all of those needs, right? We're serving water, Steve. You are correct. I'm thinking there's got to be some sort of buffet and there's got to be some choice. Maybe even, my aunt and uncle had one of those weddings where there was like a pasta bar station, a taco bar station. So maybe we're having stations. So this analogy works for thinking of that idea of what we need to serve up to our students. So what I would like for you to consider is what kind of diversity do we see in our classrooms? And you're going to be accessing a Padlet, and you can get there in a variety of ways because I UDL'd the slide here. You can scan this with your phone or another device. You can click right on the link and get to the Padlet, or you can type in this GUI, whatever makes you happy. I'll drop the GUI in the chat if you need it, so that you can add to our Padlet of the diversity you might see in classrooms. Our Padlet has a lot of great ideas already, but check them out and see, maybe speak from what you might see in your classroom. And if you can't get the Padlet to work, by all means, you can drop it in the chat. There's a little pink plus sign in the lower right-hand corner if you've not used Padlet before. Yes, we certainly are seeing a lot of political diversity, recent immigrants, military life, their prior knowledge and experiences, their socio-emotional learning, their varied interests. I had a student one year, he's a grown adult now, and he's an amazing young man, but he wouldn't look you in the eye. He would never make eye contact. And he was just super, super shy. And he was wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt one day. And I said, oh, hey, what's your favorite song by Led Zeppelin? And he was impressed that I knew who Led Zeppelin was. And I shared my favorite song. And that was the hook that just brought us together and ended up getting him to kind of form that relationship. I had the hardest kid one year. He the prior teachers actually gave me a bottle of wine. They're like, we're sorry, and I found out that this student liked to shoot archery, and I shoot archery. And just by happenstance, I was painting my bow like a camouflage. And so he thought I was the coolest thing that ever happened. And that was by engaging in that conversation. So definitely their diverse, varied interests that they have. Cognitive diversity, everything. Okay, thank you for participating in that Padlet. So just to summarize here, we have quite a huge audience in our classrooms that we are trying to serve. And I think that as evidenced by how teachers were kind of called out on things on social media this past year especially, I don't think people understand who we're serving in our classrooms, because they look at their schooling like, oh, I was a student, so I understand what it means to be a teacher. But nobody thinks like, oh, I've been a patient, so I know what it means to be a doctor. But this happens to us all the time. So people are not aware of the diversity in our classrooms, that is for sure. Especially, everyone bases it on their prior experiences, of course. So we are faced with a lot in our classrooms, and we are faced with a lot of acronyms. So this is just a fun little cartoon here. We're drowning in the acronym soup. Alphabet soup of education. And so that brings us to UDL, okay? Universal Design for Learning. I first heard about UDL about 5 or 6 years ago formally when I attended Dr. Katie Novak's training that she did in Southern California with her book UDL Now. And I was so taken by UDL and what it, especially I was a technology coach in my district. So how can technology help support UDL? And I really think that this past year has let us see that in big, big ways. And what I found was most people associated UDL with special ed. So it's not a function of special ed, it is a function of general ed. And I'm going to show you where you can find it actually in your frameworks in a few minutes. But in case you are a newbie, and at least half of you are pretty new to the idea of UDL, I found this video. It's on the cast.org website, which I have a link later in the slides for you. And it's just a nice little intro to the feelings of UDL from fellow teachers. So I'm going to play this real quickly.
I'm from Sanger, California, and I'm using UDL to change the world.
I'm from Cardiff, Wales.
I'm from Kentucky, Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
I'm from England. I live and work in Netherlands. Bengali Chile.
And I use Universal Design for Learning to show teachers that it actually is possible to address the needs of all of your students in your classroom at the same time.
I use Riverside Design for Learning to remove barriers and provide equitable, meaningful access to all students.
I'm from Malala, Oregon.
Kingston, Ontario.
Williamsburg, Virginia. And I'm using UDL to be a more reflective practitioner.
For overthrowing barriers to my students.
To make spaces for language learners
so that all students have access to high levels of learning.
UDL is for everybody, for all students across the world.
So was there anything in that video that stood out to you when hearing those teachers speak about UDL? And you can either unmute or pop it in the chat. Reaching all students, no matter their backgrounds, definitely. The removing barriers always stands out to me, because you don't realize what is a barrier sometimes to students and their learning, and unless you build those relationships with students and really take a look at that, the activities and the formative assessment you can get, the information you can get from them. Okay. So the definition of UDL is a proactive design of curriculum and instruction to ensure education is accessible no matter of learning style, physical, or sensory abilities. So how can I help meet the needs for everybody? It's kind of like when they have elevators, escalators, and stairs in buildings, and that helps everyone reach the floor they need to get to. So Jennifer just added in the chat, UDL is for all learners because we all have variability. Absolutely. And it can vary to the day. Like this morning when I was working on my computer, like my eyes, I needed my glasses for sure. Now, just yesterday I was working on my computer, no problem, without wearing my, the blue blocker glasses, whatever. But this morning I needed them. So I had tired eyes. So the variability can happen just on the fly as well. It's not certain learners need something all the time either. All righty. I did put a lot of resources in here for you. Dr. Katie Novak actually just came out with a new book with Catlin Tucker about blended learning and UDL, and I've been starting to read that, and it's very validating in the practices that I was using this past year. I had at least 7 students with a 504 plan, and I never heard anything from their parents saying like, hey, you're not following the 504 plan, because I was varying the learning for students. Steve just added in the chat, creating expert learners stands out to me. Absolutely. We want to give every student that opportunity to become an expert in what we're teaching and the skills that we're teaching. So I've linked in here Dr. Katie Novak's website. Dr. Barbara Bray is also a wonderful UDL resource. The cast.org website is one of my favorite places to go to strengthen my knowledge on UDL. And I love it because everything's color coordinated, and everything that I've put in my training for you is color coordinated to match their color coordination as well. I'm a color coordinated charts kind of girl, as you'll see in a few minutes. So, and then this here is a UDL wheel. And I just point this out because there's a lot of us who like that tactile part. You want to hold something. And so I found this wheel on the CAST website at one point, and you print and laminate these 2 pieces of paper, cut them out, and then I know you've got a drawer full of brads in your classroom. It's sitting there not wondering what to do with those brads. And so this makes a nice little handheld, quick spin of the wheel to see that you're meeting the different principles of UDL. It's a really small font though, so I'll just warn you on that. But I just wanted to provide a variety of resources for you, and these will be here for you to look at later. But I want to see how you react to a little bit of UDL here. So I have a Jamboard, and let me grab the link. You can, if you're in the slides, you can certainly click on that. Otherwise, I'm going to put the link in here for you. And one thing I often hear from teachers is, I want everyone's work to look the same so it's easy for me to grade. I want everyone completing a 5-paragraph essay. I want everyone to create an infographic. I want everyone to create a whatever. And so what I really found helpful this past year in giving my students a lot of opportunity for choice is they got to, I would give them maybe 3 options, like here's the topic and here's your options, you pick one. So I want to see what you would choose. So my activity, and we're not going to really do this, but my proposed activity is, what is your favorite shoe and why? So if I asked you to tell me about your favorite pair of shoes, which of these 4 methods would you prefer? And you're going to grab a Post-it note. You can change out the number on the Post-it note to be your name or your initials if you'd like, but you don't have to. And the colors don't matter on this. It was just a way to have enough Post-it notes. So would you rather write a short paragraph about your favorite shoe, create a model of your shoe using found materials, with colored pencils, pens, or pencils, draw a picture of your favorite shoe, or would you write an ode to your favorite shoe? So what would be your preferred method of answering this question? All right, so it looks like most of you want to do that paragraph. Oh, the drawing is becoming very popular. We have an artistic group. Nice. I go back and forth between wanting to do the drawing. I'm a mosaic artist as my little fun on the side. And so I would like want to mosaic a shoe. But, and so have you ever had a student propose an alternate assignment for you? Like, could the mosaic work? Absolutely, because I'm going to give my students a rubric. And what needs to happen is I need to know by the end of this, the reasons why this was your favorite shoe and what your shoe looks like. So those might be my 2 grading criteria. And can I grade for those 2 criteria through these other options? Absolutely. So if we go to that, just having a rubric, and I actually have been really trying to use the single point rubrics that were brought to my attention by Jennifer Gonzalez on her blog called Cult of Pedagogy. And so I can vary the output for the students so that it meets their needs. All right. So as I mentioned, I went to Dr. Kitty Novak's talk about UDL and her book UDL Now, and learned all about access, engagement, and expression for students. And at the time, I was the instructional coach for technology and other duties as assigned. And I kept thinking, like, technology is the avenue to help our students out with this and our teachers out with UDL. And we have so many tools that I think we as teachers forget the tools we have. So what I did, and I know this is really small. Oh, yes, sure, Claudia. Let me get the slides for Claudia. Here you go. And what I did is I took the 3 areas of UDL, multiple means of representation, action, expression, and engagement. And I put them on this chart, and I just took the information from the CAST website and put it in this column. And then over here, I put down all the places that I could do this. Like, what strategies do I have? What tools do I have? What types of lesson design do I already know? So that when my idea here was, if I print this up like on 11 by 17 paper, I could fold it and tuck it in my lesson plan book and refer to it, because I think we as teachers forget all the tools that we have. Just so you're aware, this is much bigger, or can be accessed as a PDF down in the speaker notes on this page, so that you can enlarge this. You can also email me and I will send you the Word version of this if you want to make this specific for your district or your needs in your classroom, since this is specific to mine. But what I did on here, just a little bit of show and tell, is the purple, blue, and green match the, oh, thank you, Michelle. The purple, blue, and green match the UDL website. And then I started thinking, okay, we've got all these other district initiatives or things I know about being a teacher because I've been a teacher for 25 plus years. And I need to keep in mind while I'm lesson building Bloom's taxonomy, Marzano's high yield strategies, depth of knowledge. Across the bottom, I have our technology, our future ready skills, which are the 4 C's, Wicker, because we're an AVID district, cooperative learning and formative assessment options. And then down the right-hand side, I thought I need reminders, because being a general ed teacher, having 36 plus students in my class, I'm going to have my GATE students. I'm going to need to make accommodations for my students with special needs, and I need to address my English language learners. So if I put all these reminders in one place, when I'm lesson designing, now I've got like a tool to use in front of me just to remind me. And that's not to say that every lesson is going to have something from every box. It's just reminders for me to think, did I remove those barriers? Did I address this? I can't give choice of product on every single assignment, but I could maybe vary the input on assignments, or provide a video and a reading, and then they get to choose one. I can support by having sentence frames on a scaffold the sentence frames. So at the beginning of the year, I provide a lot of sentence frames, and I slowly remove the scaffolds as my students have gained those skills. So again, I'm not a checklist person as far as like this lesson must have 5 of these things. That's not what this is. It's just reminders of what you would want to include. So again, if you would like this in Word, please feel free to email me and I will shoot that off to you so you can make it your own. But I do have some other resources later in here that I think might even be better, but you'll see and pick what you need. UDL all the way. All right. So I'm hoping that helps kind of delineate the purpose here. One thing I know to be true is, as I already mentioned, that many people view UDL as a function of special ed, and it is a function of general ed. And I think part of that mystery comes from how we, at least in California, were given the latest version of standards, right? Everyone keeps talking about the new Common Core, and I think we're at least a decade into this, guys, so it's not new anymore. And they're not 21st century skills because we're a fifth of the way through the 21st century. So anyway, we got our standards, and then at least a year later, if not more, we got the frameworks. So we got the what to teach, but we didn't get the how. And everyone was all concerned about the what's. And then we finally get the how. And I don't think, and I know that from the first round of standards back when like 1998 or whatever, I remember getting a book of them, like a printed book. And we don't get the printed book anymore. Everything's available online. So what I did for you right here, because I'm not sure if you're aware of where the equity and access pieces are in your framework, or the fact that UDL is called out in your framework, is I went and pulled each of the sections depending on what you teach. So I've got language arts, science, history, and computer science. And those are the newest standards, which are at least, well, they were the newest when I built this session. And the math universal access piece. So what I'd like you to do is take a couple of minutes and look at your framework. And if this isn't your subject area, you can look at the ISTE standards for educators. I was ISTE certified a couple of years ago. And when I was reading their standards, I'm like, oh my, these were definitely written with UDL in mind, and it's very purposeful. So there's elements of UDL built right in the ISTE standards. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock and let you choose which frameworks you'd like to go look at. And just look for ahas, or maybe it's the first time you're seeing this as a valuable resource. So 2 minutes on the clock and check out your frameworks. All right, so we're wrapping up that 2 minutes. And were there any ahas or anything that you want to share, either out loud or in the chat, from the section that you looked at? Okay. I am always happy to find in those frameworks that's okay, Latanya, thank you. I'm always happy in the frameworks that to see that there are the call out for the communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. So Heidi says that ELA, ELD teachers should be assigned reading. This should be assigned reading for all teachers. I agree. Paula loved the examples provided. Great, thank you. I really think this is an underutilized resource for us. And anyway, I just found them so helpful in knowing, like, again, we had the what to teach with our standards and then the how, and it really helped tie things in. But again, people are so focused on those standard rather than this piece of it, the actual instructional piece. So, okay. I'm glad that I made you aware, Michelle. That makes my day. Good. So the frameworks, they're all on the California Department of Ed website, and there's a lot of really good information in there to unpack. Like you could spend a lot of time on that. And for my K-5 or my elementary people, we have a lot of information in there because we have our 4 subject areas at least. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for looking at that. I'm glad I could make you aware. So what I'd like to do right now that we've got some ideas of UDL under our belt, is take a look at a lesson one of my friends created. Susan says that she's seen the standards multiple times, but I don't think I ever noticed this chapter. You probably didn't because it's in a separate place. The standards are in one book, the framework are in another. So they're not even in the same, I don't believe they're in the same resource. I'm pretty sure they're not. Because one of them's under the curriculum part and one of them's under the instruction part, I think. So, okay, good. All right, so we're gonna look at this lesson created by one of my friends. It's a hyperdoc. And we're gonna look for evidence of UDL. And you can look, you have a choice. You can look for evidence of UDL, or you can look for missed opportunities where she could put more UDL in to remove more barriers. So this is linked on slide 14 under click here. And let me give that to you again. I'll put it in the chat too, so that you don't have to go look in there. So poke around this lesson for a few minutes and see where there is evidence of UDL or a missed opportunity where more UDL could be put in here to remove other barriers. So I'll give you a minute or two to look at that, and you can just type in the chat when you find something that's UDL-like. Heidi says any reading can have the text-to-speech function. Yes, absolutely. And when students are writing a response, they can use the speech-to-text part then too for putting the responses in here. Except they do have to go back and put in punctuation, and they don't like doing that. I was working on writing a book this past year, and I did that. I'm like, I'm just going to talk my book. And I realized, first of all, how many ums I say and how many run-on sentences I say. So it was a good lesson to me, though. Always learning. Anything else standing out to you? providing the links to the definitions of the words right in there. Yeah, if I'm not sure what administration is, I can go right here and see that. There's partner work. This obviously would be more than one day of instruction. She's a middle school teacher, and so this is definitely not just one day. There are multiple ways to get the information. She's got them reading right here. She's got them viewing a graphic here. And in this one, they're reading a transcript or listening to the broadcast. There's some pair shares going on in here. I like how they're in the explain, they're looking at the pro and the cons, so they're looking at both sides of the issue and have to find evidence for that. And that they're getting ready for that Socratic seminar, which is such an effective tool when discussing a topic for students. Anything lacking that you think should be added to help students be successful? There are rubrics provided for the writing and the there. Only one choice per step. So there could be other choices in there. Step 8 should have another option for the apply. I was thinking, depending on where it is in the year, and we don't know what she was doing in the classroom with this as well, but she could have had sentence frames up on the board to support the students struggling with how do I address this, or giving them some stems. Maybe they have some argumentative writing stems that they would have over at the side to remind them. Graphic organizer would be helpful. Okay. And I think that, again, this is just one lesson and we don't know what they've done on the side as well, some videos. Okay. So, but all in all, there's a lot of evidence of UDL in there. And that's what I love personally about HyperDocs, because it really helps me put more of that UDL in there and providing those choices, and just using the, all it is putting in a hyperlink at this point. And now we all know how to do that, right? The uptick of tech skills of teachers really improved this past year. So I can easily add a URL to, and students now are one-to-one pretty much. So yeah, good. I'm glad. If you, I think she uses this with her 8th graders, but my friend Jenny would say, feel free to modify that lesson and make it your own if you need to. So good deal. All right. So what the other resources I have in here for you as we get ready to prepare for our next little activity. Oh, sure, Lanny. 1 second. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody just in case I missed anyone. There you go. Okay. So what I did on this chart has the same, very similar information as the other one that you saw. The colors are just a little bit different and it's blown up. It doesn't have the their outside edge. What I did on here, when Jenny and I created this session, we put in all the things, and you'll see us focus on social studies because we were focusing this for history, social studies teachers, but where could I go get the information to make this happen? So if I want to provide options for expression and communication, I could use Adobe Spark. There's a link. I could use a Google Drawing. I could use Flipgrid. I could use WeVideo or DoInk. And so we tried to put in as many links to different places that would get you there for this skill. So to help you, like, kind of, someone's like, is this like a choice board for teachers? Kind of, but it should be purposeful. It shouldn't just be like tic-tac-toe. It should be purposeful on what you're, where you're removing those barriers for your students. So this slide has all 3 of them right on here. And I'd like to point out the goal at the bottom of the chart, which I think is just fantastic to really put myself in a mindset when I'm planning a lesson. So by providing multiple means of representation, my goal is to create resourceful, knowledgeable learners. So am I providing ways, is it me just giving them all of the information, or are they having to go find some of it? Are they getting to use their research muscles? Or am I giving them some curated resources, which is totally fine until they learn how to research properly? When I'm providing multiple means of action and expression, am I strategic, helping create strategic and goal-directed learners? So am I getting in those executive functioning skills for my students? And we know they're going to have some gaps in there this year when they come back to us, because I hate the term learning loss because I don't agree. I think kids learn in various ways, but we are going to have to quickly look at where the deficits are and address those through the strengths the students have. Providing multiple means of engagement through by creating motivated, purposeful learners. So I just think that's a nice putting things in a balance check there of what my goal is. What I did on slides 16, 17, and 18 is just enlarge this a bit for you so that you wouldn't have to squint or enlarge your screen. So they're the same exact thing, just enlarged. So UDL for vision. And what I want to get to is on slide 19. On slide 19, I have a link to a planner where we can kind of just toss out some ideas. So if we go into this Let's Practice, and I'll drop the link in the chat. My goal on this page is for you to take a lesson that you may always do, or something you're thinking about that you want to do in your classroom, and how you might change it up to remove those barriers and use some of the principles of UDL. What can you do to make that lesson more accessible to students? So I'm going to grab this link, or you can access it right in the document, in the presentation. Here's the link. And I have a sample on slide 2. So if I were doing a lesson on Native Americans, using my standard that students will gain awareness of the indigenous inhabitants in North America, that's pretty typical for 5th grade social studies. So if I was going to provide multiple means of representation, I would be using primary sources and documents, letters, texts, videos, text, and the stuff in the textbook. For action expression, I might let them record their thoughts and wonderings on Post-it notes or Padlet or video like Flipgrid. And multiple means of engagement, maybe I can take a trip to a local natural history museum, or do a something in Google Arts and Culture, since so many resources are now made for us to just go seek them on the internet with the improvement of information with our past year in the pandemic. So I'd like for you to grab a slide and just jot down a title or topic, brief gist of the lesson, and then what you might do to remove barriers in that lesson. So this is just a little like 4-minute brainstorming session, and it's not going to be graded. And if you need help, you could put that help in the chat or unmute, and I'd be happy to walk you through and brainstorm some ideas with you. But I'll let you work on that. So we've got the Constitution.
Like, I wonder if they have a locker or something. I doubt it. Oh, it's true.
We've got the checks and balances system in the Constitution. Just checking to see if we have anyone else in here. So we've got using the coordinate grid system for latitude and longitude to determine the absolute locations. So it looks like, ooh, Google Earth's a great one. It's very fun for the kids to come up with their own pathway to get somewhere too, or send them on a scavenger hunt, right? Oh, nice. They could go out on the playground and create latitude and longitude lines. Nice. Very fun. Getting them up and out of their seats. All right. It looks like quite a few of you are just mulling over ideas. And so that's wonderful. Not a problem at all. We're getting close to the end of our time together. So I want to, I'm going to move us along a little bit here towards the end here on slide 20. I just want to do like a little reflection question of, I gave you 2 sentence frames on here. And I've given you the choice, and I would never give my students this many choices, but I was just trying to model this for you. You can reflect on Flipgrid, on a Padlet, Jamboard, or you can even use a physical Post-it note if you'd like. You could actually even use the chat here since we're a small group, and use the sentence frame. I have learned that blank is an important part of universal design for learning, or I can remove barriers for student success by blank. So just kind of to wrap up our time together, what's one of your takeaways from today? You can use the sentence frame or you don't have to, but you can go run a little Flipgrid if that floats your boat. There's a Padlet in here. Oh no, how could that Padlet, that link just worked yesterday. Let's try that again. Okay, phew. All right, that Padlet's working. So you can add a Padlet or this Jamboard. So go ahead and do just a little reflection piece on something you've learned. You can either use the sentence frames I provided or just write your own. So Paula says that she can remove barriers for student success by providing choice. Absolutely. Heidi says I can remove barriers for student success by giving students options to show their learning and provide a variety of ways for students to access the curriculum. Absolutely. It gave me great joy this year when my students would like compliment me on my lessons, and they were not being smart Alex. They were being like, absolutely. They're like, that was actually really fun, you know. And when you get kids telling you that searching for metaphors and similes in what we were reading, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe is fun. I mean, like, that's kind of cool. So when students ask for lessons to be repeated, we had a lesson activity called the thick slide, and basically it's deconstructed paragraph, and they don't realize they're writing a paragraph until you point it out to them. And like no kid ever said, hey, can we write a paragraph? But they said, hey, can we do a thick slide? I'm like, yes, you sure can. So it's like putting the zucchini in the muffins, right? So you're eating a vegetable and you don't even know it. All righty. Let's see. We've got some Jamboard posting in here. I can remove barriers for student success by giving them choices, and they can be owners of their learning. Excellent. And a variety of options is important. Absolutely. All right. Lastly in here, I've got a couple of quick wins. So if you need any like quick activities, these are linked right here for you. And so they're UDL built in. to those. And then some helpful links on this page. Someone just sent me a message about that she presented using EduProtocols today. Yay! Okay. Thanks, Paula. So EduProtocols are absolutely part of UDL. I've actually written, like I mentioned to you, I wrote a book this past year, and my information is going to be in there. But if you want an easy way to make sure that UDL is happening, you want to be using these EduProtocol templates. There's a bunch of free templates on the website. And then I have this group that started off as a support group for one of my friends who was out on maternity leave. And she's like, oh, I want to know what you're doing in your classroom. I'm like, well, I'll make a website. She's like, no, I want to be able to ask you questions. Could you make a Facebook group? So I did in the fall of 2019, and now it has over 2,800 members. So it's just a cool kickback group. There's no drama in my group. We're not selling anything or anything like that. It's just teachers helping teachers for free, and like validating things or asking questions or pointing out like, hey, this is cool. So feel free to join. But my emails at the beginning of the presentation, John Carippo, who's the co-author of EduProtocols, always says free tech support for life. And I absolutely agree with that. So please feel free to email me. If you have any questions about this or anything else, I'm happy to help you. That's just, I think, what we do as teachers. So thank you so much. And it was really nice to meet all of you virtually. I hope someday we get to see each other in person, and let me know if I can be of any help. So thank you so much for spending your day with me. Oh, thanks, Susan. Good. Great. So you are so welcome. You guys have a great day. And yay, I'm glad. I think UDL is really going to be the answer to making our next school year successful. So.